nerds and nerdettes and we little nerdlings all? Your buddy Big Johnny G from Two Gun Pixie Presents Legendary Gaming is back again, and I got a game I want to teach you how to play. That is by Osprey Games, and that is Sakura. Sakura? Sakura. I think it's Sakura. I gotta check that out again. But this is a light-hearted game. It's pretty fast-moving. 3 to 6 players. Has a 2-player variant. I kind of taught myself how to play it, dumbing that down again for a 1-player variant, and that kind of worked a little bit. So let's get this to the table and check it out. All right, so getting the board set up is the first thing that we're going to be doing. We're going to be looking at, and that's really fast. That's really simple. It's not a great big board, as you can see. Beautifully rendered, though. Really digging the art style, especially in comparison to the theme of the game itself. So this game covers from 2 to 6 players. It's a 2-player variant, actually. It covers from 3 to 6 players, anywhere from ages 10 and up. And it should run you about 20 to 40, 30 to 60 minutes, depending on the number of players and their skill, how well they know the game. So each player, let's figure this for a 3-player game. Each player is going to pick a pawn, and then they're going to take these tokens. There's 5 of them in each color, and they're going to take them, and those are going to be their starting tokens. Everyone's going to be starting at the gate. There's only one entrance gate. And then all the way at the other end is the shrine. And that's where the Emperor is taking his walk to. He's going to be following the path to get there. Of course, these lovely little bridges past the Sakura trees, which are beautiful cherry blossoms. He starts right here at the Torii. That's why this spot is a different color. And all of you guys, the painters, so that's what you're trying to do. You're trying to get a great painting of the Emperor as he's walking through the garden. So your painters are going to start over here. You're going to want to keep the extra tokens off to the side, because they're going to be coming in handy. And there is a deck of cards. And you're going to shuffle these cards. You're going to place them off to the side. And then each player is going to get 5 cards. Now I'm just setting these up, faced up here so you can see them. In the game, this is a competitive game. It's an all versus all game. So you're going to keep your cards secret. You're going to keep them to yourself. But for the purpose of this how-to play, I'm leaving my 5 cards up and open so you can see them. So that's the setup for the game. It's very fast. It's very easy. Now, although there are rounds, there are no player turns. No, there aren't. Because everyone's going to be playing a card at the same time. You're going to look at your hand, and you're going to decide which one you want to play. Now, let me explain this to you. These numbers you see down here at the bottom, such as 4, 49, 11, 32, and 10, you could consider this initiative. The card that you play will go in the order of the other cards that are randomly played. Well, in this case, randomly played, as I'm going to be showing you. But with other players, they're going to pick their own card. So, yeah, the card that you're going to play versus the card that your opponents are going to play. And they will take effect lowest number first. Now, up here, every card has a banner on the left-hand top side. And the banner will have 2 marks. Top mark is for the guard in action. And that controls the Emperor. And it can control other painters. And the bottom symbol will have an effect on your individual painter. So that's the way the cards look. That's the way they're set up. So how you play is every player is going to throw a card out at the same time as soon as they're all ready. And you determine how you want to do it. Everyone nods their head. 3, 2, 1. It's not in the rules, so it's totally up to you. So you're going to want to play a card that's going to get you close to the Emperor. Now, during the game, certain cards will move the Emperor. These are 2 examples right here of cards that will move the Emperor. So that's what this symbol here means. This means you can move the Emperor one space forward or one space back, while this, you can only move the Emperor one space back. So the Emperor is going to be moving during the game according to the cards that you play and the cards that everyone else is going to be playing. So you're going to want to figure out what's the best card for you to play, because each time while the Emperor is going around the garden, there are three Sakura trees, and this here is the spot, along with this one right here, this spot, and then down here when he gets to the shrine. At these spots, the Emperor will stop. No matter how many moves the card says he has left to do, he will stop at the 3 Sakura spots. And at that point, there will be scoring done. I'll get to the scoring in a moment. But you are going to score higher the closer you are to the Emperor. Now, the problem is, don't touch the Emperor. Don't touch the Emperor, guys. If you touch the Emperor, you're going to have to move back 3 spaces, and you're also going to lose a token. Now, let me talk about movement, because 3 spaces may not actually be 3 spaces. So, you're going to play a card. Now, I have this set up for a variant that's not in the rule book, a 1-player variant. It does discuss a 2-player variant, so I'm just using that as the rules for the 1-player variant, and I'm doing this to show you how to play. So keep in mind, the turn, when your card is going to initiate, when it's going to activate it, and you don't know what the other players are going to be throwing out. So I want to get close to the Emperor, but I also want to move him because you want to get him to a spot where you're going to be able to score. So the biggest movement I have here is a 2, and I will also move up 2. So on the count of 3, or however it is you decide, that card is going to go out. Now on the 2-player variant, which I'm using for a 1-player variant, you will randomly take a card from the top, and you will play it for the court painter, or in this case, the court painters. So as you see, the lowest number here is the 32 that I threw out, the red player threw out. So that's going to be the card that goes first. So as you can see, the first thing that you do, which is always the garden, the Emperor is going to move 2, and after the Emperor moves 2, the red pawn will then move 2. 1, 2, and then you're going to get on the board, you're going to go 1, 2. Now let me talk about bridges for a moment. You notice there's a difference in the middle color of the bridge, and that's the same for all 4 of the bridges. If you were playing a 3 or 2-player game, or as I have devised, the 1-player game, then the bridges count as 1 movement. You get to the bridge, it counts as 1 movement. So from here, I have a 2, so I went 1 and 2 right to the center of the bridge. If you're playing a 4 or 5-player game or 6-player game, then you are going to count this as 1, 2, 3 spaces. So that's a big difference depending on the number of players in your game. So after my card is done, it's going to be discarded. And the next initiative goes, which will be the 42. So the 42, this symbol here shows that the player in the back, the painter furthest in the back, will advance 2 spaces, while you, the player that played this card, in this case the white pawn, will get to move 3 spaces forward. Now keep in mind about movement. You have to move the number that is shown. You cannot move up to that. The white pawn player could not move 1 or 2 spaces, would have to move the full 3. Plus always means you're moving forward to the shrine, while minus always means that you're moving back towards the entrance arch. So this card to take place, there are 2 in the very back, so that would be the player's choice. So the player decides to make themselves count as the furthest in the back. So the white pawn player is going to get to move 2 spaces, 1, and then 2. You never stop at a space with another pawn there. You count over it. So for the 2 spaces from the gate here, that would be 1, and that would be 2. And then gets to move 3, 1, 2, 3, and therefore both actions are done. The player furthest back got to move 2, which was the white pawn, and then the white pawn who played this card got to move 3 forward. And they are right next to the emperor here, as you see. They are right there. Now, that gets discarded. Now the last player gets to go. And I'm glad it's set up this way because I'm loving to show this to you. Now, this symbol here, again, remember, this archway symbol here symbolizes the movement of the emperor. This plus minus means the player that threw this card down gets to choose whether the emperor is going to move 1 forward or 1 back. So the blue player decides that the emperor is going to move 1 back, which bumps into the white pawn player. So that painter has to go back 3 spaces, 1, 2, 3, from shame, and one of these gets lost. Oops, sorry about that. And then finally, the blue player decides that the blue player will move 1 pawn forward. Right there. And that is the first turn of the game. After that, each player is going to draw another card, so they have a hand up to 5. You always have your hand secret. Remember, I'm just having this displayed forward, up front, so you can see it. So it makes it easier for the video, easier for you to see what's going on. So why don't I just talk about some of these other symbols here, because you see these 2 symbols here are the same. What this symbol here means, there we go. So if the red player played this card, or this card, after moving the emperor back 1 space, then the red player, this symbol here, then the red player will get to jump in front of the first player, regardless of how far away the first player is. This symbol right here, let me move this out. Let me space this out a little bit here. So, this symbol here, this is going to show that the player who played this card, let's say it was the blue pawn, that you get to add up the number of players between you. How many other painters are between you and the emperor? In this case, there are 2. So you would get to move 1, 2 spaces. Now remember, if that white pawn was there, then your 2 spaces would be 1, 2. Because painters can never be on the same spot. And those are the symbols of the game. This symbol here, I showed you the other one. So this one means that the player in the front is going to go back 2 spaces. So if that was played, then the red pawn would go back 1. Can't go here or here. Go back here 2 spaces. The red triangle almost looks like it's pointing down because there's a little bit of a nub. Is always rearmost player advances. While the green one, where you can see there's the nub on the top, means the forwardmost painter will go back that number of spaces, in this case 2. So that's how the cards are played. Now, the scoring aspect of the game, the first time while moving along this row, the first time the emperor gets to one of these 1, 2, 3 spots, as I pointed out, the spots by the Sakura trees, the emperor will stop moving, even if there are more movement points left. That gets canceled out. The emperor will stop there because this is the spot the emperor is admiring the beauty of this tree. So at that point, there we go, that looks nice. Let's say this was the setup at that point. So at that point, the player whose card moved the Emperor to that spot stops moving the Emperor, and then gets to do whatever the other effects, whatever the painter effects, gets to do that. Then any other cards that are being played that for that turn, they get put in the discard pile. And scoring will begin. Now the trees will tell you exactly what's going on. So the player closest to the Emperor is going to get three of these tokens, while the next player is going to get 2, and then the player third furthest will get 1. So you're going to lose tokens every time you move into the Emperor, and you're going to lose every time the Emperor moves into you. In fact, that's also going to cost you 1, 2, 3 spaces. So don't forget that. So that's how you're going to be losing and gaining these tokens, these honor tokens. Now, if the Emperor has already passed the first spot, you've stopped, you've scored, the rounds are continuing, and then the cards bring the Emperor back, there's no more scoring. Each one of these 3 locations can only be scored the very first time the Emperor moves into it. And that's going to happen again here at the second one. And then at the last one, it's going to happen again, but the points are going to be worth a little bit more for the player closest. That's going to be worth 4 points, while 2 and then 1 for the trailing players after that. And then at that point, you're going to count up your tokens, and the player with the most will win the game. If this deck ever runs out, just take the discard pile, shuffle, and set the deck up again. And that, my friends, is how you play Sakura by Osprey Games. Now, running through this a few times really quick with the faux 1-player option with the 2 court painters. I liked it a lot, but I can't wait to get this to the table and have a real actual game of that. Hopefully, maybe in the next couple of nights, we're going to get a chance to do a Pixie playthrough. So fingers crossed, or wings crossed. All right, I'm your buddy Big Johnny G for 2 Gun Pixie presents Legendary Gaming, and I am out of here. Whoa!